Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to start a minute. 7 o'clock. Just a couple procedural things I want to mention. We do, for anybody that's speaking there, if you'd like to, and you should keep it in mind, there's some sanitary wipes there. So if you want to use those with the mic or whatever, just for your own protection, they're provided for you there, okay? And just to the council, we've kind of mentioned this, but if you're not speaking, turn your mic off because there's a lot of feedback that's happening and people can't hear. Okay, let's have Councilman Murphy and Councilman Berg lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor,
Councilman Kilpack.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Kilpack, and the loudest one that I heard was Councilman Shetron, seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the first item on the agenda is citizen requests and other communications. So is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Board and committee appointments. Item A, reappointment of Carl Bosner to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Carl served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the last 3 years. He has volunteered to serve another 3 years. I'm recommending the reappointment of Carl Bosner for another 3 years. Do we have a motion?
Mayor?
Was that you, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Kilpack.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Carl Bosner to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 3-year term beginning September 1, 2020 and expiring August 31st, 2023.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Kilpack and seconded by Councilman Murphy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It's unanimous. Item B, reappointment of Michael Brown to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Brown served on the Planning and Zoning Commission. He'd like to continue serving. I'm recommending the reappointment for a 3-year term.
Mayor,
Councilman Zimmerman.
I move to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Michael Brown to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 3-year term beginning September 1st, 2020 and expiring August 31st, 2023.
second.
Who is that? Okay. It's been moved by Councilman Zimmerman, seconded by Councilman Berg. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving along, item 6, ordinances. Consideration on second reading an ordinance for a proposed language amendment to Chapter 9, Appendix B of the zoning. The proposed language amendment will add Family Child Care Center as a conditional use permit in the R1 and R2 zoning single-family residential districts. Do we have a motion? Councilman Kilpack.
I move to approve amendment number 2 to the, that's the wrong one. I move to approve on second reading the amendment to Appendix B zoning, Chapter 9, use regulations, adding Family Child Care Center subject to the state of Wyoming requirements 1.311 as a conditional use permit in the R1, R2 zone district, single family residence district.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Kilpack, seconded by Councilman Murphy. Okay, here we go now. Is there any discussion? Okay, so the way we're going to do this, guys, is that whoever wants to speak, step up there and try to keep it. You're supposed to, as an individual, try to keep it to about 3 minutes. And that's all there is to it. So anybody that wants to start the discussion, just jump right in there. You know, we might start at the beginning and kind of go back. That just might be the easiest way to do it, but that's up to you guys. And make sure, of course, you identify yourself.
All right, you'll have to forgive me because all my notes are on my phone, so that was the easiest way for me to get them all down today. All right, good evening, Mayor Rust and City Council members. My name is Irish Kreis, and almost 3 years ago, I was given an opportunity to re-enter the workforce by the Golden Hour Senior Center. The opportunity to take this position was very exciting for me, as I had been a volunteer there for many years. The biggest hurdle that my family faced when being able for me to be able to accept this position was finding affordable child care. We looked at child care centers and also in homes, with most of them being booked or also out of our price range. A friend of mine recommended Stephanie Bowman with Welcome to the Jungle Daycare. And not only did she have one spot available, and mind you, this was a spot for a 3-year-old. I wasn't looking for care for an infant or a toddler. She was available to take my daughter and also affordable, which was a huge concern when taking a position like the one I was taking. So I was able to accept this position and work here in Green River. And I also was able to have that child care within just minutes of my home, my work, and my other 2 children's elementary school. This was important to me as the timing between when I got done with my job at work to pick up my daughter from daycare and to pick my boys up from elementary school. This was a crucial component to being able to take the position that I have currently. This lack of child care is an issue in Green River. We have people driving to Rock Springs for child care, and we have people who are not able to enter the workforce due to the lack of child care, the availability of the child care, and the affordability. This is such a big problem that there are lots of different entities inside this community who are currently looking at opening child care facilities as well. So what I ask is that we look at expanding the child care facilities to accommodate 5 extra children in Green River, like Stephanie Bowman with Welcome to the Jungle, as an opportunity for the city to promote a local business while providing an essential need for our community. I'm very thankful for the time that my daughter was able to spend with Stephanie at Welcome to the Jungle, and the opportunity for me to work in Green River at a job that I absolutely love. So I am here today to ask you, Mayor Rust, and City Council members to please vote to approve this so that Green River can continue to be a place where people are able to live and work and play. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question to ask.
Yeah,
Iris,
come on back and let, if you would.
You said that you've had your children at the daycare.
Absolutely.
Has there ever been a problem with cars coming up? Has it been crowded, or is it?
This is the best story. I've thought a lot about this after reading the notes from last meeting that City Council had, and that there was some concern about the cars. And if you're familiar, Stephanie is on Hitching Post, and it is a very busy street. I leave work at 3 o'clock, and I need to be at her place, out of her place by 3:25 to pick up my other boys at Monroe. The biggest concern with traffic on that street is the high school students who drive down that road 35, 45, 55 miles an hour. That is the biggest concern. And one of the best things about Stephanie's location that makes it ideal for parents, and I actually had a friend today send me a text message asking me, I need care for a child before school starts. Well, guess who has a little bit of availability and also has a bus stop directly in front of her home so that that child can get to school, have child care in the morning, and be taken safely by school bus to their school. That is why this is such an important thing. This traffic issue, think about myself. If I was able to have a fourth child, I would not want anyone in this community to care for that newborn infant more than Stephanie Bowman. She has made a huge impact in my life, but the biggest impact is the fact that I was able to return to the workforce in a job that I'm passionate about because I got lucky enough to find childcare. And that is really what this issue comes down to, is that we need childcare from people who are dependable and have a great history of providing excellent care in our community.
So you're telling me that there's not an issue of cars backing up
No.
when you pick up
No.
the child?
And, it's very different because she has children who are taught by, so some of her kids, I think one of them at the time was a nurse, one was in law enforcement, there were a couple teachers, and then there was like myself who didn't drop off until 9 o'clock in the morning. We were so staggered. I never saw some of the other parents who ever picked up or dropped off. I was part-time, so I picked my kids up at 3. She has parents who pick up after school at 4. She has parents who work in Rock Springs, who get off at 5, drive back, they're picking up at 5:15. She has a beautiful driveway with plenty of space. That is not an issue, and never was. I never was concerned about where I would park. I never had to park across the street and take my children across a busy road in order to get to my car. It was always accessible. She has a great location. And I think that is important for the safety of our families to be able to get children in and out of the facility. And her place is built in a wonderful location with great accommodations to accommodate, I think, maybe 5 extra children, but that doesn't necessarily mean 5 extra families. And so I think that's something we need to remember, is that some of us come, like if I would have come years ago to her, I would have had 3 kiddos. My kids are all 2 years apart. There were plenty of years in my life where I wanted to be in the workforce, but I had 3 littles. A, I couldn't afford it. B, nobody had openings for 3 small children. And, those are things that maybe one of those families that she currently has is expecting another child. So it would be the same amount of cars, just 2 babies get out instead of 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys can see there's going to be a lot of duplication. So when you get up, you might just say, I agree with, some of the comments that are said. Otherwise, we'll be here until 2 o'clock in the morning. Because there are a lot of common arguments, obviously. In fact, I'm going to jump in right now just because I can and because I've been kind of labeled as the bad guy here. I drove by the Bowman's house today. To be honest with you, I didn't realize that was the house that where that daycare is. There's a vacant lot on the left-hand side. There's a vacant lot on the right-hand side. There's a vacant space in the back. I drive by that every single day on my way to City Hall, anywhere from 6 o'clock in the morning to 7:30. It's the ideal location. It's one of those things where you look at the particulars, and not every location is ideal like that. But I've driven by it many, many, many times when people are unloading, and it because it has a long stretch and there are no houses, in either way, there's lots of parking on the street. It's the most convenient way to do it. It's more convenient than driving into the driveway in terms of disruption of the traffic. And I've seen the school bus right there too. So just certain properties are certainly much more suited for what this is, and there's ones that the opposite is the case, where you got houses all around, and it may not be quite the same case. Anyway, yes, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Martha Holscraft. I reside at 1595 Green River Way, and I would just wanted to add that I agree with everything that the lady had before me had said. My purpose for being here today is not only do I work in our community, but I also run a foster home. And by running a foster home, I get phone calls 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning for several different children. And I cannot, it's always the same response, and that is, give me a minute, let me check on my child care. If I don't have a place that will watch these children, then I can't take these kids into my house. My spouse and I choose to take any children under the age of 4 because not every residence wants it. Not every foster home wants to accept an infant. We specifically do in our house. And so that's how I was given the opportunity to meet Stephanie, because Stephanie works well with our foster care system as well as the child care system through DFS that they help with paying. I've tried other daycares and before, and because I don't really have control over how the state pays that piece, some people turn against me because I am paid through the state, and the state helps pay that system, and it's a lot of paperwork, but Stephanie allowed me to do that. So I just wanted to add that I hope that we continue, and can it be approved so that I can continue taking kids as long as I know that I've got a spot to put them. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Bowman. I know that there's been a lot of talk that there are some openings in Green River, and it's going to come up that the school district couldn't get enough kids enrolled to keep their daycare going. But part of the problem is they weren't accepting infants. Nobody accepts infants because you lose money on infants. It's the only way for in-home daycares to take more infants is if we're allowed more kids, because we have to hire somebody. You can't pay somebody if you don't have more kids. It just doesn't work. There's just no infant spots in Green River. There's 16 total. That's all there is. And I assure you we're having more than 16 babies a year, let alone under the age of 2. And I know that there was a post on Facebook that she's saying that she has more spots available. I understand that, but according to the school district's presentation that they did, she didn't have infant spots either. She had older children's spots, and I just don't know how to express that these babies have no voice, that they need to be in licensed care facilities. They need to have the state dropping in. They need to have sanitation dropping in. So you have that safety net for parents instead of dropping it off to a neighbor or somebody on Facebook for 3 or 4 hours. You know, you see all the time on Sweetwater babysitters on Facebook, I need somebody tomorrow from 7 to 4 for my 3-month-old. That is not okay, because they can't get into a daycare, let alone somebody who needs subsidy, and the state doesn't pay an individual. I shouldn't say that. It's my understanding that you have to be licensed to receive subsidy from the state. But that's all.
Mayor, I have a question.
I beat you this time. All right, Stephanie. So, doing this change to where we allow 5 more kids in an in-home daycare, explain to me the breakdowns of infants versus that extra 5. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so I'm currently working on my infant credential, so right now I could take 2 more infants with another staff member. So I could take 4 under the age of 24 months.
and what would that extra 2 would move you from, if you were full, 10 to 12.
Yeah, and
kids.
that's all I'm doing. I have two babies that were born during the pandemic that are waiting to come back.
Okay, so that wouldn't allow you 2 infants and 3 more.
Infants or 3
Two-
more? Oh no, I could still take 3 more kids.
You could
They
still
would just
take
need to be
the.
older. You have the child staff ratio still. You have to have So, like, if I had a separate room that I was just doing infants, I could put one adult with 4 infants and say a classroom. For every one adult, you could take 4 infants, but you couldn't have a mixed group. Your child staff ratios change with a mixed group. So I personally, with one other staff member, could take 2 more infants, and I'm saying that wrong, 2 more under 24 months, not under 12 months. And then I could take 3 over that 24 months. Now with my 10 that I currently have, you can't have more than 6 in the age 3? Like 36 months. 36 to, they have together.
You can have 200.
And then
You can have 5, 20, 40.
everybody else has to be over the 36 months.
Actually, I think you answered my question, because what I was wondering is, since I've read in some of the places that you can only have so many infants and so many, there's a breakdown of ages, and I think you broke it down, but would you please repeat that in the mic so we have that on the minutes, and those that are listening on the
So,
TV can.
Can I grab my phone real fast and I can actually pull it up and then I can
That
read it
would be,
direct?
that would be important to know those numbers.
Okay, and I'll even tell you where to find this. If you go to the DFS website, you can go under childcare and childcare licensing roles, and it's gonna list your child staff ratios. Sorry. It's gonna be under table 4. One of the child on that site. And so, like, you have a 1-to-4 ratio or 2-to-8 with infants. So if I had me and another person, I could possibly take 8 infants in no other age group. That's not what I'm going to do, but that is an option. 12 months if I had 2 people. 12 to 24 months, if I had 2 people working, me and another person, we could have 10 in that age group. Your 3 and your 4, I mean, they go all the way up to, like, classroom size. 20 kids, 24 kids, which I wouldn't be, the state doesn't allow that. I'm capped at 15 if I was to get the center. It looks on here, I'm not going to promise, but you could look for yourself. It looks on here that you are capped at 10 infants with 3 people working in a room. If you had just a room for infants, that you couldn't go over the 10, but you'd need 3 staff members there the whole time.
Well, thank you for that information, because I've talked to a few people that has been confusing.
It is
And-
confusing.
And so that's good that you have put that in the minutes so that we've got that information. I still don't understand it, but that's okay. I had too many kids to even worry about it.
I just want to say one thing. Being a grandfather and watching my 1.5-year-old grandson, if you got more than 3 or 4 of them, you're gonna go nuts. Yeah, it runs you ragged now. So I don't think you're going to be going after, 10 infants or whatever else
No.
under 2 years. 'Cause that would
Honestly,
just-
the thing with in-home daycare is we see these babies from birth to school. You have a relationship with them, and that's my goal. I have my very first family that I had in childcare, I had them for 12 years by the time the last child went to kindergarten. You build that relationship when you're in an in-home. They don't have to worry about who they're dropping their kids off to. There's never a different staff member there. They're always bringing them to me.
Right. My wife did that when we lived in Idaho, and she had up to 8 kids. And all the parents thanked us very much for it, because it was more of a family type thing.
Yes.
They weren't institutionalized. They could do things. They grew, And actually, I think they grew better than the kids that were institutionalized or whatever, because they interacted more with kids their own age.
Sometimes, yeah. And I think it depends on the child. There's some that just don't do good in big settings, and others that may thrive in that. But anything else?
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment on this. I could read this to you in terms of the rules for licensing rules, and you wouldn't be any more knowledgeable after I was done. You know, it's pretty complicated. You know, I read it and you know, again, I think it would be very entertaining just to read this, but it'd take some time, and I'm not going to do it. But it's, you know, if you have this many, you can do this, but you can do this, but then there's this, you know, kind of a thing. But it is available online, and we do have it. Anybody else?
My name is Sarah Allison. I've spoken in front of you at the very beginning of when Stephanie was proposing this before I went to Planning and Zoning. I'm just going to talk about some numbers because obviously we're all very passionate about childcare and and all the kids. And my story is the opposite of Irish. I just left a nursing management position to relicense to do childcare because I didn't have daycare for my baby. I have just completed that process, and it is grueling. This has probably been the hardest one that I've done, and this is the third time I've licensed. So I am full, and I have a waiting list of 4 babies already. I already have my infant toddler credential that she's talking about, which allows me to take a little bit younger group. So I'm going to have 3 under the age of 2. But by doing that, it caps out my total number at 8. For me, that represents a $14,000 a year pay cut by not taking the 10 that I'm licensed for. So that's a struggle that a lot of home providers think about. Could I certainly fill all the way up to 10? Absolutely. But this baby care, this infant care, this under 2 care is what is absolutely needed in our community. Can I take care of every baby in this town? No. Can Stephanie? No. Can anybody else that's providing care in this town? No. But if a few of us step up and we kind of take a small bite out of this elephant, maybe we can keep young families and people coming into our community. That is a big struggle. A lot of young families move to Rock Springs just because there's a little more childcare. Not necessarily more affordable, but there's more spots available. So even though Stephanie and I are doing the same job, we are not in competition by any means. We both offer something very, very different, just like all the other home providers and centers do. And I think our goal is truly to find just really quality child care for the children in this community. And putting 30 kids in a small classroom is not quality child care. I'm just going to speak my opinion on that. So I'm very much in favor. I think she's got a great setup. She's got plenty of parking. She doesn't have any neighbors. Would every home provider have that? No, I don't have that at my house. 10 is going to be my limit. And I would never ask for 15 because I am in an R1 with lots of neighbors, and I recognize that. But she definitely has a place where she could do that. So I'm very much in favor.
Hello. My name is Carrie Wadsworth, and I'm in complete support of everything that's been said so far. My youngest, when he was born, when he was about 6 months old, I needed to find new daycare. And I looked around at different facilities and was rather disappointed in some of the answers I got in some of the, one of the commercial daycares, and wanting to ask how they would cuddle or, console my child if he was upset or something like that. And basically there were times I was told, well, we don't have time for that. So I happened to stumble across Stephanie, and my youngest son went to her from the time he was 6 months old until he entered kindergarten. He's now 9 years old, and he still talks about Stephanie and still likes to stop by and see Stephanie. It is about that relationship. So when I couldn't be there, I knew that he was getting those connections that he needed. And there were times when during that time frame that I was the sole provider for my family, because my husband had to undergo back surgery and wasn't in a position to care for my youngest child. And so it was so important to me to have that type of support for my child, to where it's helped so much. And I live in Stephanie's neighborhood. I drive by her house multiple times a day. I went to her house for 5 years. Even now, there's not an issue with traffic coming in and out away from her house. Even when I was there and I would have to pull in and pull out, there was never an issue with the traffic around her house. And again, like they've stated, like people pick up at so many different times. There's so many times you don't even see another parent. And I work a very varied schedule because I work for the state. And so, I mean, I came in and out all different times of the day and evenings during her time frame, and there was never an issue with that, nor is there an issue now with that. So I just wanted to let you guys know, I mean, those relationships are very huge, starting at a very young age. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Councilman. My name is Jody Pine, and Stephanie had my child for a very short period of time, but in that short period of time, she referred me to another in-home facility, and my children have adored that other in-home facility for years and years and years, and we still have a connection with those people. Stephanie only had my youngest for about 2 months, and that was just till the end of the school year because that was all the availability that she had. But I love her dearly and I see her daily just to try and keep her motivated that we can get through this, and we do need that childcare because I did need 3 spots after the school year was over, but she didn't have 3 spots. She only had that single spot that I had filled those 2 months of the school year, and that was within 6 months of me moving to this community. And I would do anything for her to be able to help her get the problem solved and get this taken care of for her, okay? Any questions? You're welcome.
I'm Sandy Davis, and I just wanted to ask for your support in the ordinance change because I do support that.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Mast. I work for the Department of Family Services. So you're welcome for that arcane and complex rulebook that you have there, sir. My wife is a teacher, half-time STEM teacher at Truman Elementary, which means both that, you know, we both love our careers, but we don't make much money. About a year and a half ago, we were looking for childcare for our then 2-year-old. We were lucky enough to stumble into Miss Bowman and her childcare center, where my child blossomed, and I could tell story upon story of how that happened, but I don't imagine that's what's in dispute here tonight. The important thing for us was, with my wife working half-time, we needed to find a childcare option that would be flexible with us, that would allow us to utilize daycare according to her schedule so that she can maximize her time in the home with our child, but also give us an option for him to be well cared for and safe when she was at work. That was difficult, especially with the more institutionalized childcare centers, which tended, I don't know that we contacted each and every one of them, but tended to charge a full-time rate, regardless of how often your child attended. which would not have been financially viable for us. That was a huge factor in our decision to go with Miss Steffi, and I'm sure glad that we did. I think that we obviously support this change. We're in the position now where we have a newborn, a 3-month-old. We're hopeful that when my wife goes back to work after maternity leave, he'll be able to attend the same child care center as his brother with Miss Steffi and be well cared for. And if he can't, that puts us in the position, honestly, of hoping that we stumble across affordable childcare somewhere else, or having to make a really tough decision about whether or not my wife can go back to work. And that obviously would have real impact on our ability to remain in this community, maintain our mortgage, and do the various things that we need to do to be productive adults here. So that was the primary thing I'd really like to communicate this evening. Thank you.
Keep her coming here.
Hello, I'm Rachel Boren. I called all of you last week. My son has gone to Stephanie for 6 years, actually to the day today. He loves her. We still talk about her. We still call her on the phone and talk to her. Stephanie needs this. The community needs this. I had a problem with when the schools shut down this year, I didn't go to work for 3 months because I didn't have anybody to watch my kid. So it's very important that, hopefully, maybe if I'm last in line, but maybe Stephanie will be able to take my kindergartner again if schools shut down. No school-age parents have any idea how to go to school if this pandemic continues. And I think that's a very big issue right now with us. And the parking is never a problem, and the traffic is not a problem. And I would support my next door neighbor if they wanted to have an in-house child care center, because I support our children and I support our families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Tyler, and I'm very familiar with Stephanie Bowman's program, and I really hope that you support it. She is a professional that has worked for years with our families. She's worked with multiple children in the same family unit. She's professional to the point where she plans and holds a spot for an infant coming into her program just to accommodate that same family. I've seen through experience working at the Child Development Center how hard it is for parents to not only have appropriate child care, but to have their kids in the same center. It gives a parent a lot of comfort if their 3-year-old is with their 6-month-old and they have one place to go and they have one person to deal with, and continue to build on those family bases that Stephanie and her daycare center operates under. I really hope y'all support this. She's doing a great job, and there aren't infant spots. I have a almost a year-old granddaughter that if her mother had to go to work, there would be no spot for her. This is a demographic that's not being served in our community, and it's based on the fact that it costs the provider money to have a slot for a child that's an infant versus a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. And you've got to commend somebody that's willing to do that. So I really ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If we don't have anybody else that wants to address the council, we're going to vote. I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead.
The couple comments that I have is I'm highly in favor of this. I raised a family of 9 children. I have 29 grandchildren, and there's many times that I have 40-some people at my house, and as Mark Westonsko might observe, I have more than 2 or 3 cars parked in front of my house every once in a while. So I don't see a problem with this, and I'm in favor of it. But there might be a misconception out there, and I don't know if I'm speaking out of line, maybe the mayor. But if we grant this, which I'm in favor of, to go up to 15, it's not just for Stephanie. It opens it up for all the people in the community to come and have this opportunity. And even if we vote to grant this up to 15, that still doesn't mean that she'll get it. Because she has to go to planning and zoning, if I'm right. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct.
Because she has to go to planning and zoning and plead her case there and ask for the grant or the compliance so that she can have that daycare in her, those 15 in her home. And to put a plug in for planning and zoning, the men and women that in our planning and zoning committee, I'm on that committee while I'm the liaison for the council there. They're very thoughtful, they're very considerate, they're very professional, and they do look at all sides of the fence. And so if this happens and she goes to planning and zoning, which I'm assuming you will, Stephanie, do that, I recommend that all of you that are in favor of this go to that planning and zoning meeting. That would be very helpful to those that have to make that decision and grant that special use permit. And then there's one other last question I have. I'm kind of confused about one thing, because I've got an email, and I won't mention the name of the person, but this person says they have 8 child care spots open. And everybody's telling us that there's not any openings. I don't know if this is an age group difference, or I don't know what the problem is here, but I'm getting some conflicting information on the people that have called me and emailed me that there are openings in Green River, and then tonight they say there's no openings. So that is a conflict for me in my mind. But I'm still in favor of it, and there's probably some people out there that won't like me because I'm in favor of it, but I am in favor of it. But that's some information that I just wanted to pass on to the council under the discussion part of it.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
And I read something here too, and I won't mention the name either, but I think what these people were saying, excuse me, I think what they were saying is they were looking for affordable, number one. And I know my grandchildren used to go to the commercial daycare, and if they missed a day, my daughter was still charged whether they were there or not. You know, so I thought, oh, she's going to save a little bit of money, but that wasn't the way it worked. The way it worked is you pay for the full time, whether they're there or not. So that's where it gets expensive. And I think the other thing people were pointing out was that the more of being in a home atmosphere instead of a commercial atmosphere, and getting those hugs or getting that, family feeling instead of being commercial. So I think that's what you guys were saying out there, and I'm fully in support of it. And I appreciate the other lady, I think it was Sarah, you have a daycare, and you said, but you wouldn't ask for it because, you have too many neighbors. And I think we have to trust people sometimes too, to have common sense and know when they live in a place where you can't have that kind of a daycare. I could never see a daycare where I live. I live in the Mesa. That's an emergency lane. I mean, you would never have a daycare there. But I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Councilman Murphy.
I think the lady that said she had openings for 8 kids was not the infants. And I think that's what we don't have there's no openings for infants in the town. And like Martha said, she takes care of the foster kids, but she can't do that unless she can find somebody that says, okay, yes, I can take the kid. Otherwise, it's like, I'm sorry, DFS, we can't do it because I have a job, my spouse has a job, we can't do that. So I think it's what it is, the kids. They're under 2 years old, if I'm right. And everybody's shaking their head, so that's it. The other question I have would be for you, Mr. Jarvie. Have you had any complaints about the traffic around Stephanie's place? or any problems like that?
Mayor, Council, Tom Jarvie, Chief of Police. I can't answer that question definitively off the top of my head. I don't know of any. The only way to be sure, though, is if I went back in our record system for quite a while and looked at that address, but it certainly hasn't been an issue. And like everywhere else in town, though, if it's temporary parking on a public street, nobody has a right to that parking. It's first come, first serve. Whether it's in front of your house or not, it's not your parking place. So, you bet.
Councilman Zimmerman.
One thing I can speak to is with my job in the county, I inspect these daycare centers. So just to dispel the thought that a home daycare center would be less safe than a commercial daycare center, that's not the case. I'm in the county, that's my jurisdiction, and I'm in those home daycare centers annually. And they hold to, as my friend from DFS can tell you, I inspect to the DFS standards, and they're tough. They're tougher than the IFC, and so I just wanted to bring that up because that wasn't brought up. And they are a safe habitat, and so I am in favor of this. So I just wanted to bring that up to say that it's not any safer in a commercial daycare. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. You okay, Mike? Robert?
I got a couple comments. Everybody that spoke, talked about the personal care that the children get in those in-home daycare centers. I've raised 5 kids, and every one of my kids went to a daycare center at some point in time. At 2 different times, I can remember taking my kids to a commercial daycare center and was not impressed in any way, shape, or form. I would never be against if somebody wanted to open a commercial, in downtown or anything like that, so I don't want people to go there. But the 2 in-home daycare centers that my kids went to, I'm still friends with both of those guys. So, Carrie Wadsworth talked about the personal care, and it is so true. The in-home daycares, they take care of those kids like they're their own, and I never had an experience any different than that. So I have been in favor of this since day one and have not personally had anybody contact me and talk to me against it. So, we've seen some of the emails and stuff like that, but we didn't hear from any of those people tonight. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, Councilman Berg. Anyone else? Okay, well, I'm going to take my turn. I had 12 people contact me, 9 in favor, 3 opposed. It's my job to represent the people in Green River. That affects what I feel, regardless of what I've expressed in terms of single-family residential neighborhoods, which people don't understand. But I do want to say, to be fair, and I spoke to my wife about this, we took our children to daycares, and it was the daycare downtown, and I've spoken to other people that use that, and I can speak to Carla and Ginger, who were as kind and caring and loving and attentive to my kids, and I could tell you the same story that you've just said about those particular people. And if you knew the 2 people that I'm talking to, and lots of you would if I told you their full names, you would know what I'm talking about. And it has to do with the people, not necessarily the facility, because those were kind, caring, loving people, and my kids are pretty successful, and they talk about them. Just as they go back to talk to their teachers in our very great educational system that we got, they go back and talk to the Carla. I don't know where Ginger's at, but it just a comment. So it's but however. I can tell you that 9-3, that's a pretty strong statement in support of this proposition. So with that, you guys have commented, the council's commented. We do have a motion, I've been reminded already, which I tend to forget because I'm old. And I'm assuming, do we have a second? Okay. So, without further ado, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Yeah, I'm gonna take a 1-minute break, and you guys might not want to deal with what we're dealing with, so you're welcome to make a break if you'd like to. So 2 weeks will be the third reading, folks. Yes.
Mayor, I move to approve the agreement with the Green River Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $90,000 for the fiscal year ending 2021, pending legal approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Somebody just briefly tell us what this is all about.
Mayor, Council, this is their contract that we support. The city supports the chamber with every year. It's been the same amount. They used to be in our community service grants. We had pulled it out of that a couple years back, but the amount and the contract itself remains to be the same. They did not get cut, similar to the community service grants not getting cut this year.
Okay. Councilman Kilpack?
I do have a comment.
Okay.
And that is, the 90,000, that can be changed if we so choose to change it to higher or lower or whatever.
Yes, you can. You've already approved it at 90 during the budget.
We already approved it during the
and
budget.
as you saw last council meeting, we also had all the other community service contracts. We were just waiting on theirs to get through the process.
So if we wanted to change that dollar amount, we would do that during the budget process.
You could change it anytime, but you've already approved it at 90,000. That would be during the budget process. Yeah.
The only reason I brought that up is because I didn't want people to think that contract is set in stone for 90,000 every year, because it's
No, it actually about 4 years ago had gotten up over about 105,000. We took when we did those initial cuts, and everybody's been at that level since.
Yep. Thank you.
Councilman Byrd.
I just wanted to make a comment that I remember being on the Chamber of Commerce years and years ago, and I remember that the city had came to the chamber and asked them to lower it at that point, and that was probably 8-12 years ago. And so this is the second time that it's been lowered, and the chamber has never came back to us asking us to go back up to where they were previously either of the 2 times.
It was 90,000 last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and we had asked, the one year we had gotten down to 81 and moved it back up to the 90.
Well, and to add to that, I think the chamber's done a great job for the city. They've done a lot of good things, and it's been a real asset to the community.
And our funding's roughly about 30% of their budget, so they get it. They're going to, if anything, they're going to get hurt this year with the River Festival and stuff. That that's one of their big events. So we'll have to see how they continue to move forward and watch their budget on that.
Yeah, and the good thing is we've stated that, it just as we did last year, we'll periodically reassess things, and if we need to make a change in the budget, we will, if we have the ability to do it based on sales tax revenues, things of that nature. Councilman Murphy.
I'd like to say a plug for the Chambers. I helped do the Run with the Horses marathon this weekend, taking tags, and then I helped do the duck race. But we had a gentleman from Austin, Texas, that ran the half marathon in 2004, ran the full marathon in 2014, and ran it again this year. And he says he's ran a marathon in every state in the United States, all 7 continents. And I said, well, how's this one, you know, thinking, okay, Green River's pretty small, out of the way. I said, how does this rank for you in all the marathons you ran? He says, it's probably the 3rd hardest marathon I've ever ran in my life. He says, it is the most fun. He says, the people here are fantastic. The course is set up beautifully. He says, everybody is really, really nice. And the other thing I found out from a lot of these runners that are like Gary, want to go everywhere and go running, and I can't quite understand that, but they said there was only like 3 marathons in the last 2 weeks. Everybody else had canceled, and Lisa said that we were the only marathon in the state of Wyoming this year because of COVID. So we had a lot of very happy people, a lot of great people coming through in that. So I just want to give my 2 cents on that.
Thanks, Councilman Murphy. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second, I think. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Consideration of amendment number 2 with Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company. Go ahead and quickly tell us what this is all about, Mark.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mark Westensco, Public Works Director. We've had Burns & McDonnell helping us with the design of the wastewater treatment plant for the last couple of years. With the design coming to a completion, we're getting ready here in the next several months to go to bid and hopefully get approval to go to construction in the next year. So this is an opportunity for us to extend their contract to cover the construction phase services all the way up through startup and operation of the plant. This is very similar to what we did at the transfer station when we had that built. We hired the same company that designed it to oversee the construction, take care of the paperwork and all of those elements. And this is actually a very similar percentage of the construction, the expected value of the construction contract. This is typical in the industry. It just happens to be a big project.
Okay, and I was just kidding, you didn't, about the quickly part of it. It is a substantial amount of money. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mark? Councilman Byrd.
Mark, when we have talked about the total cost of this project, is this above and beyond that?
This is within that total cost that we've been expecting. We've been talking about a $30 million project. We'd originally received a design grant or design loan for $2.4 million. We expected the design to cost that much. We actually got the design done for $1 million. We have a construction loan for $27.6 million, and that includes everything kind of squidgy before the things go to bid. But we're expecting the construction cost to come in $25 million.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments for Mark? Okay, seeing, go ahead, Councilman.
I did have a question. So on the fiscal impact statement on the first page of the document, so basically the reading now is for $1,664,306, and then down at the end of that fiscal impact, we're talking about the total service agreement of $2,658,597.
Yeah, so
what's the difference in the two?
Their current contract is just shy of $1 million. It's 900 and however much. I think it started at 970.
Okay.
And then we did amendment number 1 was another 24,000. So I believe it's 994 and change right now.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, do we have a motion? I caught myself. Do we have a motion?
Mayor?
Councilwoman Mays.
Where is it? Okay, here it is. I move to approve amendment number 2 to the city's agreement with Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company, Incorporated, for construction phase professional services for the wastewater treatment plant replacement facility in the amount of $1,664,306.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Mays, second by Councilman Murphy. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's unanimous. Item C, consideration to approve an agreement with Target Solutions for online police training. And what a surprise, the police chief is here to talk to us about this. Go ahead, Tom.
Mayor and Council, part of the new normal for police officers is different ways to conduct training. This is a platform that offers a number of classes. It was in the materials as the course catalog there. So there's many courses our officers will be able to do online from the PD without having to travel, without having to buy motels, pay for gas, pay for food, and at a rate of about $2,500, which is roughly 1.5 officers worth of training dollars a year. So I think it's a good deal. I will mention that the contract you had in your packet has an indemnification clause in it that we cannot do. Galen caught that today, and we had that removed. I did print out the agreement without that if you want to see the agreement you're actually agreeing to, which is different than the one in your packet. So I'll pass these out.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments for the chief? Seems like kind of a straightforward move with today's what's going on, technology, and all those other things.
I do have a comment.
Go ahead, Councilman Byrd.
Galen, thank you for catching that.
Thank you.
If you're looking for it in the agreement, you'll notice that it goes from paragraph 7. It goes from 7.11 to 7.3 now. 7.2 to 7.22 from the packet is what was removed.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns again? All in favor of the motion signify. Oh, that confused me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman Zimmerman.
I move to approve the agreement between the City of Green River and Target Solutions allowing the police department access to Target Solutions online training courses and authorize Mayor Russ to sign the agreement upon legal approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Zimmerman, second by Councilman Schuchman. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. See if I can get this one right. Item D, consideration to waive fees for the Green River Little League and Green River Girls Softball. Does anybody want to? Okay, go ahead, Reed.
Mayor, Council, we were approached over a month ago regarding with the COVID and the shortened seasons that were going on. If the council would approve a reduction in fees, and for some of the leagues, granted some of them, such as the Legion, the high school baseball, we have soccer, we have football, flag, all the different ones. These were the ones that had come back and asked for one. They either asked for because their season was shortened, we didn't have as much field prep time, or as many games to do. They would also didn't have the counts that they wanted. They would like to see if there would be a reduction. We did find out that they did charge the same amount of monies to that for that, and they were looking to hopefully anything that was being saved would go for equipment and use on that side. We have not heard anything from the other entities that have already paid or have asked for a fee waiver, and I don't know if it's because they're just didn't think it was possible, or just figured it was the shortened season, or wasn't as short of a season that maybe like the softball had endured, which is like 5 weeks shorter. So in the discussion I had with them, it kind of goes a little bit above and beyond my scope of what I would want to approve. I'd rather have council approval on it. They either being a prorated function or some level of that if you find it deemed necessary.
Okay. I'm just going to comment based on this if I can. Obviously, they didn't get quite the service that they normally get, so I think some fee reduction is appropriate. And it would seem to me that the most equitable thing would be to treat everybody the same. Whatever, if you folks agree that there should be a fee reduction, it should be based on, if some people had 4 weeks of the season cut and some people had 2 weeks of the season cut, it's not going to be exactly the same number, but it seems to me that the staff could work that out pretty equitably based on what they got. You get a reduction based on that because they didn't get the full services, and it didn't cost us as much theoretically and practically. Although those are, so anyway, that's my thought. Go ahead, Councilman Kilpack.
If there's a complete fee waiver completely, even because of COVID, what's the cost to the city? In other words, what do we donate?
If we were to reduce all the, like, you mean in terms of softball, baseball, all that kind of stuff, I would have to go back and take a look at that. I'm thinking it's in the range of $4,000, maybe $4,000 to $6,000, if it was to be zero, right? Granted, the reason, we still have to prep the fields, we still have to get ready for the games, we still have lights, we still do, all the normal things, on it. Even if there isn't a game, we still have to take care of it, on that side. So,
and that comes out of our regular budget, doesn't it?
That is correct.
We've already budgeted that. I can see here on the on your information that you give us. In 2019, Little League was $3,600. Well, that's what they paid. The fee was $3,000. So yeah, you're talking. About
so it's about $6,500 total. Yeah. Well, all for. If you looked at on the seat, yes, correct. You're on it. That's what I.
So are they? I think that's what it says. But is this all based on COVID? Or principally? So have we looked into the obvious that with COVID impact monies that could pick up this?
They as an entity would be able to go after impact fees if they wanted to.
But these are also nonprofit organizations that are usually ran by the parents of the kids playing these sports, isn't that true?
Right. If they are a nonprofit and set up in that manner, then they would be able to go to the state and request lost revenue. It wouldn't be on the city's part; it would be on the organization's part.
The organization's part. With all of this, my son, he plays soccer in a lot of these different leagues and stuff, and I feel bad for the kids that didn't get a full season. So I'm in favor of this.
Mayor, I would just like to make a comment to the council. I'm in favor of 100% reducing the fee, not prorate, just this year, just not charging a fee, period. And that would change the motion that's suggested, so it depends on what the rest of the council feels.
I have to agree with Gary and Robert.
You have
I
to
also
wait
know
to be
that one of
recognized.
my very good friends said his son was doing track. And it's like, he says, okay, he goes, no, track's over now. And he's like, you didn't even have a meet, or you didn't do this or that. Yeah, it's already done with. We don't have any more time. We can't do anything. Now we're going into football. And it's like, that was the strangest thing. He's going to track for 3 or 4 weeks, and then it's done. So I agree with 100% reduction.
I'd served on the Spurs soccer board for a year or so, and these entities don't make money doing this. They have to do fundraisers and raffles and everything just to make a season happen. So I'm sure a lot of these entities, as far as the Little League and the soccer and all those, this was a kick in the teeth for them. So
I also don't know of how many of those would be on the 501(c) or whatever for nonprofit things like that, because that's can get expensive. I mean, you've got, nothing against gay ones, you have attorney fees, and you have this, and you have this, and this, and you have to do all these, jumping through the hoops and everything else, and a lot of these people are like Robert says, you know, we're a bunch of parents helping out, doing all this, and trying to raise money or do whatever else we can to send the kids off to that, so, yeah, I still have to agree 100%.
And this could definitely put some of those organizations in the red starting the next season when they're able to start up, and that's tough.
Okay, any further discussion? Somebody want to make a motion? Councilman Zimmerman.
I can see where Tom would want to give 100% back because he's running for election. But I don't understand Gary or Mr. Byrne.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Councilman Zimmerman. Somebody want to make a motion?
Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman Kilpack.
I don't know exactly how to make the motion other than
Actually, it says,
pretty simple.
although this is only for these particular, you guys are talking about expanding it to all.
Yeah, I don't see how we could do it for one and not another.
Other than,
I don't know what the impact on the budget is. Like you said, it'd be about $4,000.
Yeah, it's gonna
$4,000
be more than
total
that.
for all entities.
We can certainly change the motion to,
Yeah, we can change it to whatever we want. I make a motion that we authorize the fee waiver for all of the youth programs that the city works with on their youth programs.
for the 2020 Youth League
2020,
season.
and in 2021, those fees will come back on just for this year. Now that's a crazy motion, but
Second that.
Okay, we have a crazy motion, we have
Crazy,
a,
no.
just a normal second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilman Zimmer.
I just got to back up Councilman Shetron here and ask our council if we can do it that way.
Without having an exact number?
I'm sorry,
or-
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Zimmerman, I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, we changed the scope of this whole agenda item, and I didn't know if we could do that way.
Oh, you surely can.
Okay.
I mean, you advertised for the meeting, the purpose, I mean, what was on the agenda, and you've expanded what's on the agenda, but you're doing it in a public setting, and you're free to do it.
Okay.
just a comment for information. When I was on the city council before, 200 years ago, we didn't even have suggested motions. We had to do it right up here and
Much easier this way, right?
yeah, decide how we did it. So yeah.
So we do have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, it's unanimous, motion to consent.
Mayor?
Councilman Zimmerman.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Zimmerman, second by Councilman Chapman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. City Administrator.
Actually, I don't have anything tonight, but I just regarding those sports, we'll go ahead and get a letter or a breakdown by sport, get a letter out to them, and just I'll have Mayor Russ sign it on behalf of the council of what they're looking to do because of the COVID, and since they've already collected their fees, and for those other sports to see that, and we'll have to, it'll be on a payment list on the next meeting, so.
I have no report tonight, Your Honor.
Call after our council meeting a couple weeks ago in regards to TV broadcast, they said that they could not hear us. I don't know if that was relayed to you and if that was taken care of or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it got fixed. I don't think it got fixed tonight, but we have All West is coming in. We do have it over the Facebook or on the YouTube side if they want to listen. There are archaic system back there. We do have All West has come to look at it. Been here like twice this week. I'm sure we'll have a solution here by the time we get to the next one.
Thank you. Then I just have a comment about the race this weekend. I didn't get to run this weekend because I was in such good shape I didn't want to break the world's record this. But I heard it turned out really good, and they had more marathoners, I heard, this year than they ever in the past. So I heard it turned out really good. And I did go down on Friday night and talk to the folks that were involved, and they do a great job. They do a great job with that race. And it is the hardest
Grueling.
marathon in the country.
I can't imagine running up Horse Thief Canyon or whatever you want to call it, and especially when it's 92 degrees. It's crazy. 26 miles or 13 miles if it's a half marathon. Councilwoman Mace.
Well, I had a question about, I had a couple of customers and constituents come in. It's a one for you, Mark. And they're asking about Knotty Pine, and they're wondering what's going on, when do they think they're going to be finished? I know the one gentleman has a motorcycle and he cannot get it out. I have another friend that's kind of crazy, and she just put a ramp over the big chasm and just rode her Harley over that, but he's not going to do that on Ultra. So anyway, but they came in and they said there's some things going on. I don't know if he got a hold of you.
I've spoken to a number of people about a number of issues over on Knotty Pine, specifically related to the schedule. The underground work is basically done. The water work, the storm work, and they have been pouring curb and gutter. They'll be moving on the sidewalk. So at this point, the project starts looking like it's coming back together. So here, over the next several weeks, it'll look like it's coming back together, and we're optimistic that we'll be paved out in September.
So it'll be finished in September then?
More likely the end of September, but that's kind of the target.
Okay. Yeah, they were just saying one of the neighbors only had like 2 feet of a sidewalk. That there was a neighbor that had a fence that was encroaching on the, I'm not,
There have been a number of issues on Knotty Pine where different vegetation or fences or other things. Some of these neighborhoods that were built in the vintage of that one had narrow sidewalks, and we're trying to get them to a more standard width. Over time, people plant things, and sometimes things get damaged when we take the sidewalk out. Sometimes, the tree board has guidelines on where to plant trees relative to the back of the sidewalk. Those aren't always followed, and so there have been a variety of issues throughout the street, as there are on every street project that we do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Well, and then I wanted to say that I was really happy to go up to the airport last Wednesday and see all the National Guard up there, and get to see the general, and that was amazing. I was flabbergasted and didn't realize how fine that dirt was going to be, and thank God I didn't ride my bike up there, so I wouldn't have made it. But it was just amazing, and they were really happy to be up there doing something that's helping the community. It was well worth going up to it.
The National Guard is just completing their work. They did their convoy out yesterday with most of their equipment. They did leave a few pieces in town to do some fine grading before Spaceport Days this weekend. So the runway is still closed until Friday, so we'll be opening it up Saturday and hoping that some people fly in to check out what the National Guard has done for us. The community is also invited to come see what they've done. Come see what your National Guard has done for our community. This has been an amazing training opportunity for them. They brought 34 soldiers and over 20 pieces of equipment. They moved about 20,000 cubic yards of material. Our runway had not had a crown in it for I don't know how long, and it now has a crown in it. The dirt is very fine. Water has been an issue. You've probably seen a water truck going up the hill. We put, I'll probably have to talk to Reed about how much water we put up there and how to make that all, accounting all work right. But we definitely do appreciate the National Guard for the work that they've put in there, and they appreciate the City of Green River for the opportunity to do the training. Normally, when they would do their 2-week training, they would go over to Guernsey and learn how to operate a scraper. They would run and they would dig a ditch, and then they would fill it back in. And the training that they were able to get on our runway, where they're taking cut from one place, placing fill in another, getting the grades to work, running with grade stakes, much more realistic operation. It's interesting, those scrapers that came through town, they dropped those out of an airplane and parachute those into the front lines and build a runway so that they can land the big stuff. So this has been a very good and realistic training opportunity for them, and they really did appreciate it, the opportunity to come.
I just thought it was a lot of fun, and I just kind of looked at all that equipment. I thought, oh, the Tonka toys are here, and they're just jumping in all their little machines and getting them going. That was just really cool. It was a lot of fun.
Can I just add one thing to that? And I think it's important, if I'm right, because I've had citizens contact me about it. There's no cost to the city for what's being done.
We will not get a bill from the National Guard. We did hire a water hauler to help us try to keep up with the water because the dust was so bad. So we did make an investment there. We did provide the water. We did provide the porta potties for them to be able to use. So there were some in-kind things. We did the design in-house with our own staff, and Andy Hooten, our engineer, has been phenomenal in helping those the National Guard folks. Just phenomenal. Been up there with them, working in all hours. He's operated heavy equipment before and has more experience in equipment than a lot of these soldiers. So he'd jump up there with them and show them how to operate that equipment. And it's just been a really, really good project all the way around, a good training. And I just can't say enough about the National Guard, but also my staff. They've just jumped in both feet and been so super on that.
But basically, there's no cost.
Yeah, it's very, very minimal.
Yeah, Councilman Kilpack, that the mobilization just on those 34 pieces of equipment, let alone the man hours and the overtime, and they ran the last few days 24 hours shifts on that side. They are going to continue to work on that, but you're talking a few $1 million of in-kind stuff from the National Guard for what we did, and they were very excited about being able to do that, and have talked about trying to do additional projects for us going forward that I think would be really good. We will send some notes on behalf of mayor and council again on that and thank them. So.
Well, that's the information that I haven't used dollar amounts, but that's the information I've passed on to those folks that have contacted me that are somewhat opposed to doing work at that at the airport for the city. So I'm happy with it.
Well, I'm not happy because you guys have taken all of my comments that I was going to make. But go ahead, Councilman Shuttrin. I know, I shall do that next time.
I'd just like to make a remark and say how refreshing it was to actually have concerned citizens show up tonight to share their feelings on weighing in on some of the decision-making process that we have to go through to decide on things that are going to affect everybody in the community, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, and have everybody understand that we do the best we can to make a win-win solution if that can actually be derived. But it was refreshing to have everybody in here to share their comments. That's all I got.
Good comments. Councilman Zimmerman?
I have nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Zimmerman, for not taking the last piece of whatever I might have. So I'm just going to repeat what everybody has said. 2.5 million. Oh, pardon me. Sorry, guys. Well, I know what's going to happen now. Tom's going to talk about the other piece that I was going to say. Go ahead, Tom. Just go for as long as you want.
First, I'd like to thank Pete and Reed for allowing the Green River Fire Department to lead the National Guardsmen out yesterday through town. I actually went up to Colonel Jacobs last week and said, if I can get it approved, would you mind having your guys taken out with the fire truck and that through town? He looks at me and goes, you can do that? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure we can. He goes, my guys would love it. I just spent 6 hours with them today because we took a fire truck over to Rock Springs and washed every piece of equipment they brought up. The guys said the last time they did it at Camp Guernsey, they had 4 wash bays and like garden hose. It took them 3 days. We did it in 6 hours. But every one of those guys was thankful for everything the citizens of Green River did. Cheryl Jensen and another gal that she works with went up there Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon and fed them breakfast and lunch. And they said that was the most amazing thing, because I said, what you guys been eating? MREs the whole week, except for Saturday, and some lady came up and fed us breakfast and lunch, and she goes, that was so nice. So those guys were extremely nice. And when I was cleaning all the equipment, I asked their lieutenant from Rock Springs, I said, I have a favor. And he goes, what's that? I said, I would like to take a ride in your Humvee. He goes, we can do that. When we got done washing everything and they helped me put all my hoses back away and cleaned everything up, he says, there's your Humvee. You want to go for a ride? I said, I do. He goes, well, I got one better. How would you like to drive it back? And I said, I can drive it too. And he goes, yep. I said, let's go. So we got to go down Yellowstone, turn around. The sergeant with me goes, okay, you can start driving it now. Here's what you need to do. And I said, thank you very much. And I found out there's no way of looking out the side of a damn Humvee. The windows are about 8 inches tall. He goes, blind spots? He goes, oh yeah. The steering wheel, hate to say this, but it looked like an old 60s hot rod car about that big around. I'm going, this steering wheel is way too small. He goes, but the steering's very sensitive. I'm going, oh yes. When you turn with especially those big tires. And they told me that the Humvees without an extended bumper can climb a 6-foot straight up cliff. So it was a lot of fun. Those guys were extremely happy. They thought it was a lot of fun even using the fire hoses and playing like firemen, washing off their equipment. And they just could not believe that the city of Green River gave them the drive through town and came out and helped them wash all the equipment off. And they were extremely happy. And they said, please call the governor and tell him they actually want to try to disband this group and have a group from Alaska come down for heavy infantry. And we're going, we don't need that. We need our engineers here. And they said they would be happy to do anything they could for us if we have any more projects. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Councilman Murphy. Councilman Byrd.
Okay, I just wanted to give some clarification on a comment that Councilman Shuttrin had made to Councilman Kilpack, and that's about air and tires. Mike has noticed on 2 different occasions, Gary and I with low tires as we're leaving City Council. And I just wanted on the record that we didn't have problems with air in our tires until Councilman Shuttrin got on council. So I know Gary's been on council a lot longer than me, so maybe, you had problems before that, but I can't think of any times like that.
Thank you, Councilman Berg. The only other people that it was a great event, and as Lisa said, I mean, we were just all beaming, everybody up there. It was just cool. It was just, I mean, they at the end of the event, they had their whole troop, all 34 people, come by in a line and shake hands or bump fists with everybody that was up there. Very, very much appreciated, as everybody said, all that's happened. The fire department. Did the police department also participate in that going out of town thing? Okay. So anything that you got sirens and lights going, people love that stuff, So that was a good thing that we got to celebrate them. And I also want to thank Senator Hastert, former Senator Hastert. He was big in getting this whole thing going a lot on, I think was on the Transportation Committee. Representative Blake and Representative Freeman were at the event. I'm not sure what they had to do with making the event happen. I do know Senator Hastert was involved quite a bit. And then the airport board, which of course is a volunteer board like all the others. And there was a lot of people that were involved, Barry Tippie in particular, and some of the other members, GT Machines. Gordon Gunter. They very much helped the whole thing get going. And if there's anything that we can do to keep that unit in place and support that with the governor, we need to do it. Because the first thing the general asked me, and I did tell him incidentally, that this is the first key to the city that I've ever given out. And that impressed him, you know. And the reason, in part, was $2.5 million. That's what we saved. We didn't pay, the taxpayers didn't pay anything to improve this. We saved $2.5 million. That an improvement into that facility, and I guarantee you, all the people that do fly in, and some of it are emergency people that when they have exercises from time to time, and sometimes it's not an exercise that they use that airport. So it's great that our intergalactic spaceport has been improved. I did ask them. When Steve and I were taking a tour and we got a Humvee ride, I said, you know, if somebody could stack a couple big rocks and maybe create some aliens for our spaceport, you know, I don't think it happened. I haven't looked yet, but they did say we got a lot of welders and we've got a lot of people that can do some things. And I was really hoping that they might kind of take me seriously. Go ahead, Tom.
Actually, if you look at Mark's video that he videotaped, we did have a vehicle with 2 aliens in it that the engineers had made, and they had it on the back of a trailer as they were bringing it down. Because people were like, "What's the green guys?" I said, "The intergalactic spaceport." That's and they're going, "Oh my God, I didn't even think of that."
Well,
yeah, they did have that in the back of the trailer.
And they were probably concerned that they didn't want to, you know, maybe do something that would be adverse to airports and aeronautics and things like that. But I was serious. Senator Hastert has talked about a guy up in Fontenelle that has he must be a welder too, that has some kind of a spaceship or something, and we ought to go up and bring it back down here. And you know, it's the road to Flaming Gorge. It's 5:30. It's the Green River Intergalactic Spaceport. There's a magazine that has quirky things in the nation. We're rated #1 in this magazine. That could be. So anyway, it was a great event, and I did want to give a shout out to Senator Hastert and the airport board for also participating along with the fire department and Mark and his staff. Very successful. And it's interesting that Cheryl Jensen did something. We need to find out who did it with her, and we need to do something about that. Oh, believe me. We need to provide some recognition for, you know. And with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, moved by Councilwoman Mays, seconded by Councilman Shetron. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for the humor there, Mr. Berg.